Guys, this is Jordan with Motion Array, and welcome to video 5 of our Ultimate Premiere Pro Basics course. We just finished going over how to work with titles and graphics inside of Premiere Pro. Now, we're on to working with audio. So, let's get started with the 5th video.
If you've made it this far in the video series, I want to say a big congratulations. You're past the halfway point, and we're nearing the end stages of making our video. We're now going to explore one of the most overlooked aspects of video production. What's interesting is that this is also one of the most essential aspects, and it will quickly label your project as either amateur or professional. Great audio is essential. So, let's get started with learning how to work with your audio. The first thing you may want to do when editing audio is set up your workspace to best help you. Premiere Pro has a preset audio workspace for you if you so choose. Go up to the top and select Audio from the Workspaces tab. And we can see that things are more or less the same, but there's a few new windows available to us. Namely the Audio Mixing panel and the Essential Sound panel. But for now, let's just start by going over some of the basics. It's important to re-emphasize that all of your audio clips, whether or not they're attached to your video, are located on the bottom half of your timeline. These work in a similar way to your video clips in that they will only play as long as the clip lasts. Extending or contracting these clips are the same as working with video. And when you have audio clips attached to video clips, these two will be edited together by default. Unlike your video clips, stacking audio on top of other audio clips will not cover or cancel out the ones beneath them. Rather, they'll just play at the same time. When it comes to audio, we have a bit more of a basic set of goals regarding editing. We want to make sure that the audio is a good volume and that it creates a proper flow and feeling for our video, and mostly that it's just not distracting. This can be primarily broken down into 3 categories: dialogue, music, and sound effects. Let's take this piece of music and try to adjust the volume. Let's say that our music was a little too loud and we wanted to lower it for a better experience. You can do this a few different ways. First, you can select your clip and go to the Effect Controls. Here you'll see your volume section, and where you can change your audio level is here where it says Level. Raising it will increase the volume, while decreasing it will decrease the volume. Volume in Premiere is displayed in decibels, denoted by dB, and clips will be set by default to 0. You may also notice that your audio is set to record keyframes automatically by default. Let's try lowering the volume a little bit, and bring it down to -3. If we look at our clip in our timeline, we can see that our audio file has also received a keyframe here as well. This is the second way that you can edit audio. By default, the volume is displayed with this white line going across your file. If you can't see it, try increasing the visual width of your clip boxes by using your mouse scroll wheel on the far left side of the timeline. So our keyframes show up here on our audio file, but we can also move it around manually with the selection cursor here. Either hover over the keyframe or over any point of the line and move it around to raise or lower the volume of your clip. Now to create a second keyframe, you simply need to hold the Control or Command button, and then you should see a little plus sign by your mouse when you hover over the line. Click to make another keyframe. Moving this around will help you to animate the volume of your clip over time. And if we bring it all the way down, we can see that we fade out our audio. Nice, you just faded out your audio. This is a very commonly used technique because it's very disruptive to have a song or piece of dialogue end abruptly. It can sound terrible, so it's a good idea to soften harsh edges by fading out your audio. You remember that we added effects in our video? Well, you can also do the same with your audio clips as well. If you go to the Effects panel, there's an entire section for audio effects and transitions, but my Effects panel doesn't seem to be visible anywhere. So, let's go to Window, Effects. We can see here that there's a variety of audio effects that we can use. But to be honest, the amount of times that they end up being used tends to be far less than effects for videos. But one thing that may help you at this stage is to use audio transitions. A fairly basic one is the constant power transition, and it essentially fades 2 side-by-side audio clips into one another. Or if you have a standalone clip, it'll either fade in or fade out. Let's give it a try. Great, but there's so much more that we can do to help enhance our audio. So let's take a look now at the Essential Sound panel. This panel is incredibly user-friendly and can help you to quickly and easily make significant changes to your audio. We can see here that there's 4 different tabs: Dialogue, Music, SFX, which stands for Sound Effects, and Ambience. The way this panel works is by having you highlight the audio file that you want to work with, and then by selecting the audio type that applies to it. You can also select multiple audio clips by clicking and dragging this box over top of as many as you want. So let's choose this dialogue clip.
Hi guys, this is Jordan with Motion Array, and this is our Ultimate Premiere Pro Basics course.
And choose the dialogue option. Now we have a whole bunch of parameters that can help us enhance the sound of our audio. In this section, we have 4 subsections: loudness, repair, clarity, and creative. Let's start with loudness. This is simply a third way for you to work with volume. But this method simply has Premiere automatically compare your dialogue clip to the rest of your project. Then it'll manage the volume in comparison to everything else. Pretty awesome. If you don't like what it's done, simply hit reset. But if you did, you can either keep it or use it as a starting point and go back to make your own manual smaller changes. Next is repair. This can help you to save or salvage bad or broken sounding audio. Each of these different sliders is for a different type of audio problem, and by activating these and choosing an amount, you're telling Premiere to attack a particular audio problem and to compensate for it. It generally does a great job, but the quality of your subject's voice may suffer a bit, but you may find that the result is still far more satisfying. Noise refers to the background audio noise. Rumble refers to the low rumbling tone like maybe a clothes dryer in the background of your shot. Hum might be caused by things like fluorescent lighting, and S refers to hissing noise in your audio capture. Let's do an example together so you can hear the difference. Here's a piece of dialogue before and after these changes.
All I'm saying is that it just looks like a small glitch to me. All I'm saying is that it just looks like a small glitch to me.
Next is the clarity setting. This is where you can make a big impact regarding the quality and depth of how your audio actually comes across. The dynamic function here allows for you to provide a greater range within your audio file. Keep in mind, this may not actually make your audio sound better if you push it too far. Below, we can add some interesting preset effects to our audio and control how extreme this effect comes across. So for example, this is how our dialogue would sound if we added the intercom effect. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your video, some of these presets might provide added depth to your project. Keep in mind as well that these effects can be heard changing in real time if you play your clip and adjust the slider at the same time. Next, we have enhanced speech, which can help give your dialogue a more professional sound depending on how traditionally male or female your voice sounds. It does a decent job, but keep in mind that no two voices are alike, so your mileage may vary. And finally, we have the creative section, where we can change the kind of reverberation we hear from our clips. These sound quite extreme, but we can see what my voice sounds like, for example, if I was talking in an auditorium. And finally, here at the bottom is an option to manually increase the volume of your clips. And that's the dialogue section. Now, if you made a mistake and selected dialogue by accident, you can undo it by hitting the clear audio type, and it'll take you back to this menu. That was the dialogue section, but don't worry, the other 3 are much less intensive and they'll go by very quickly. If you're dealing with music, the music section can help you to do 2 specific things. By hitting auto match, Premiere will automatically detect the volume at which your music would be best working alongside your other footage, making it audible but not overbearing. Depending on your desired outcome, it does a pretty good job, usually. And lastly, the duration setting allows you to select how long you want your entire piece of music to last. When you have a music file going behind the rest of your video, chances are it won't actually line up to be the same amount of time, and the result is that you try to find enough footage to fill the length of your clip, or you end up splicing up the music and trying to hide your cuts. But if your audio and visuals are not too dramatically different in length, you can type in the length that you want your audio file to last in hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. And Premiere will either extend or contract your music file to match the length without changing the pitch. This means that unless you're a human metronome, no one will actually notice the changed speed of the song. Take a listen. Next is the sound effects option. Here we have 2 parameters that we've seen before, loudness and creative reverb, which we now know how to work with. But we have this option called pan. Basically, what this allows you to do is to take the sound and prioritize it as coming either out of the left or the right side of your speakers or headphones. So this means that as you can hear me talking, you can switch this for being heard either on the left side, or the right side, or somewhere in between. So if you have a sound effect that's coming from the right side of your camera, you can immerse your audience by having them hear a matching sound direction. And finally, we have ambient sounds, which are primarily for ambient noises in the background of your video. These can be considered a type of sound effect in a sense, but ones which are more consistent and help to establish the environment rather than a particular action. So they end up being a little bit more subtle. And here, with stereo width, you can control how subtle or how in your face these ambient noises will sound. And that's the Essential Audio panel. Take advantage of its great features to help enhance your next video. It will take some trial and error, but it's very user-friendly, and it'll certainly be able to increase the quality of your sound. And lastly, there will come a time when you have multiple different tracks with multiple different audio clips that you have to deal with. Sometimes an entire track of audio files may be off when compared to the rest of your video. This is where the audio track mixer comes into play. Here we can see that there's the same number of audio meters as there are audio tracks on our timeline, and each one is labeled to the corresponding track. If we play our video, we can see that our audio levels will play at the same time, and we can now both hear and see our audio levels. If one isn't quite sounding right and needs to be adjusted as an entire track, you can raise or lower its volume together with this slider. This way, if you have a long video with multiple different tracks of video and multiple different clips in each, you can quickly and effectively level off all of your audio to a manageable level. And guys, that's it. You've learned the basics of working with audio inside of Premiere Pro. That's it for now, but in the next video, we're going to be going over how to color correct your footage.